So, the testimony wrapped up in the Chad Daybell murder trial. People are betting on how long is it going to take for a jury to deliberate and cast down the final verdict. Did the Daybell children make a difference for the defense? Well, we're going to talk about that and more, so stick around. In today's video, we'll discuss the latest updates on the highly publicized trial of Chad Daybell. After weeks of intense testimony and evidence presented by the prosecutors, jury may begin deliberation as early as today, May 29th of 2024. Chad Daybell's fate lays in the hands of the Alda County jury. So a quick recap. So Daybell's involvement with the Doomsday religious group and his marriage to his goddess Lori Vallow, the mother of two deceased children in this case, has captured the nation's attention. And those of us that have been following and just starting to follow, well, you're finding out that there have been some shocking details that have emerged involving the deaths of Tammy, Tylee, and JJ, including allegations of cult-like beliefs and cover-ups. So what we're looking forward to today is the jury to weigh in on all that evidence that was presented by the state, and both for the prosecution and the defense, my apologies, and many are anxiously awaiting that outcome. Will Daybell be found guilty or acquitted? Is it too late for a plea bargain? Chad Daybell must be living in a time capsule in his own little world, because the evidence that was presented is clearly enough to sentence him to life. Also in this video, I'm going to use some subscriber comments to kind of break down some of the analysis or how they seen this trial going. So a lot of us are thinking, will the jury be able to put together this massive puzzle with half of these puzzle pieces missing? That was a tongue twister, wasn't it? The jury spent most of their time just sitting in this courtroom soaking in information, which was quite an overload of information, and especially an overload to anyone not familiar with the case. So some of these jurors may or may not be kind of familiar with this case. We don't know. And so for the jury to kind of put this together, it's going to take time. Someone might even see jurors kind of not agree as quickly as they did in the Lori Vallow trial last summer. Anything's a possibility, isn't it? I want you guys, we're going to do a thing. Guess the time that you believe that it's going to take for the jury to deliberate on this case. Drop it in the comments below. Several people have done this, and I think it's quite interesting to see how long you guys think it's going to take for a jury to find Chad guilty, most likely, or not guilty. Closing arguments were set to go this morning, May 29th, around 10 a.m. Yesterday, Nate Eaton had a chance to interview Larry Woodcock. If you're not familiar with that name, Larry and Kay Woodcock are the grandparents of JJ Vallow, so one of the children that are deceased.
My personal thoughts as we exited the courthouse, as we exited the courtroom, and we walked down the aisle, I was very sad. I've been very sad today, and I reflect back on this for 5 years. 5 years. And I asked why. I still haven't got that answer. For what?
So something I feel for the family members like Kay and Larry is the fact that they're not getting the answers they deserve. And even if they did get the answer as to why or what, they're not going to be happy with it. Why? Because it doesn't make sense. There's no excuse in the world that either of these two can give to anyone that can relieve your mind to say, hey, oh yeah, that makes sense. I can kind of understand that. However, that being said, they can find out from Chad, why is it that he let lust control him in this way, that there are 3 lives, well, really 4, but in this trial, 3 lives that have been taken. This is the ultimate selfish. Satan is very proud right now. Speaking of Satan, I wanted to mention this. Maybe some of you are new to this case and then this channel. You know, there was a point in time where Melanie Gibb mentioned that Lori Vallow said that if Chad was Satan, he's a good one. I've always wanted to look more into that. And I wanted to understand how that even come up. There's so many questions and so many answers needed still today, 5 years later. Right, Larry? There's no doubt in my mind as I researched this religion and I started looking outside of the religion into other beliefs and teachings, and I learned that what Lori and Chad and Melanie Gibb, Melanie Boudreaux, Alex Cox, and several others in this group were actually following and teaching was quite evil. That being said, you'll learn on Life Beyond the Grave that more details of where they're getting this information, and make sure that you tune into that. Especially, I'm going to suggest start about 1:30 of Life Beyond the Grave, and it's going to start getting more detailed and more interesting. Probably learn some more new information from there on. Before I go further in this, I want to send my love from all of us here at Chasing a Murderer to the Woodcocks as they await the verdict. All right, let's talk about, and I know you guys have been waiting for me to do this, Emma Daybell. And you know, I know that right now the defense is using Chad's children as a way to grab the jury's heart. But sadly, I don't think that worked for them. So one of the things that John Pryor was doing was making Chad's kids look like they were being victims. They were being stalked. By who? Investigators. Instead of feeling like they needed to find answers for how their mother passed away, well, it turned into something way different. So it was very shocking.
Did you feel like you were at any time under scrutiny as part of this case?
Yes.
What sort of situations was it that felt that you were placed under scrutiny?
Any interaction I had with law enforcement.
Okay, was there an occasion at a gym that caused you particular concern?
Objection, Your Honor, relevance.
Overruled. Was there a particular situation at a gym that caused you particular concern?
Yes.
What was that situation?
I went to exercise with my sister-in-law and...
Who's the sister-in-law?
Michaela Daybell.
Okay, that would be who's...
My brother Seth's wife.
Okay. I can't keep all of you straight, I'm sorry. And then what transpired at that point? What did you observe?
We were in a section of the gym with lightweight dumbbells, and Detective Hermosillo came and started exercising near us. And it seemed like a part of the gym that would have been too easy for him, and he stood closer to us than felt comfortable.
Objection, Your Honor, this is calling for speculation.
Judge, she's describing an event, not speculating about anything. That's overruled. Go ahead.
He was standing closer to us than felt comfortable, and it felt like he was trying to listen in on our conversation.
Were there other occasions, either at church or otherwise, where you felt that people were maybe judging you?
Yes.
Give me an example.
I had a detective from Madison County confront me in the hallway at church.
Okay. And was that an uncomfortable situation?
It was really uncomfortable, and I haven't attended that congregation since.
And was that a situation where your role at the church was what at the time?
I was asked to help teach young children in the nursery, My daughter was in that class, so I was really excited too.
Did this particular detective have some sort of authority over the church or a position in the church that allowed him to dictate whether you were schooling young children or not?
Objection, Your Honor, relevance.
Sustained.
So a lot of this testimony was about Emma feeling uncomfortable, not about what happened to her mother. Was this, something natural, especially with people kind of making a big deal of it? It's kind of taking over. Well, the nation is interested to know why Tammy Daybell passed away. The lack of concern as to why she's in court was a big issue for many people. She had no emotion whatsoever, and it appeared as if they were setting up for a lawsuit, in my opinion. Investigators trying to do their job. They do this with everyone that is a suspect of homicide. They do this with everyone who they might suspect might know more about a homicide. And she's playing victim in a court that is not about Emma Daybell or Garth, but about this beautiful woman right here, Tammy Daybell Douglas. Many people, like herself, believe that Pryor was leading Emma on to become emotional by saying, if you need a tissue, you need a break, let me know. This is the only reason I might feel that Pryor did not persuade them in some ways, is the fact that they did not catch on, the fact that they needed to become more emotional. Many people claim that Chad's kids were flat out liars, even accused them of being part of this cult. And the fact that Emma said that it was traumatic for her dad to see his wife Tammy die. Did he see her die? Most of the testimony by Emma and Garth, especially Emma, was to make Tammy look bad, and this just didn't help defense at all. In fact, many people following this case say, like father, like daughter. Some people suspect that Emma might know more than she's leading on. A lot of people believe that prosecutors were taking it easy on the Chad Daybell children. In fact, I have to agree. It seemed like they were taking it easy on the children. But you have to ask why. Like I said, it seemed like they were trying to make themselves look like victims, and there seems to be a possibility of looking into a suit. And again, a lot of people believe that the children were coached, at least to a point. Interestingly, she claimed that she was not 100% on board with their beliefs, but a lot of people do not believe that, especially after looking at the text where the children were supporting this light and dark theory, especially for Sunday school children. The biggest exclamation point in this case is, what the heck, kids? Aren't you wondering why investigators found 2 deceased people on this property? The lack of concern for such a big deal. This is a big deal. This isn't something that, oh, my cat passed away and here's our pet cemetery. No, this is 2 children buried on your dad's property. And Garth seen his dad September 9th of 2019 in yard work clothes. The other thing that they try to make these kids victims for is the fact that when they excavated or re-exhumed Tammy Daybell's remains in order to try to find answers, because they have, red flags popping up. The kids were making this look like they did this to basically annoy them. And they're doing it for no reason whatsoever. If there was anyone on board for the concern for these children, well, this might have wiped that away. I myself still have concerns as the way that they testified. It really didn't add points for them. I was their biggest cheerleader, trust me. I was hoping that they could get through this, wake up, and find the right path for their future. 4 to 5 years is plenty of time to wake up. And if they haven't woke up by then, they're never going to wake up. That's my opinion. Do you guys think that they should have woke up by now? A lot of people said, the fact that they can see these kids lying on the stand, at least that's their opinion. They said, no wonder investigators are following them. Liars do not look good in the eyes of an investigator. So we've had clues that Chad Daybell might not have been as innocent as you might have thought at the beginning, that maybe he was a poor, innocent, dumb guy that fell for Lori's shenanigans. But he has a history of hurting animals. We've talked about that in past videos, and he doesn't like animals, especially dogs. So, guys, I know that you're on the edge of your seat right now. Closing arguments are going. And so I'm going to close this video out and let you guys know that we're going to continue covering this. And we're going to talk about what the jury has to go through. That's going to be the most important part in their decision making. What were they given? What did they have to make that decision? Okay, let's go over what you guys have to say, because your comments are so intriguing. I love reading them. There are some pretty good ideas in these comments, and let's see how people feel. This comment is by user. Emma was so keen to portray Tammy as cheating with her Fitbit, but had no problem with her father cheating on her mother with another woman. Unbelievable. I've heard several people actually talk about this exact comment, how Tammy was kind of fooling around and having fun with the Fitbit. I mean, that's obvious. But the kids have no concern for the fact that mom was having a hard time because she had a feeling, most likely, this is speculation, that her husband was cheating. By the way, there was only one person that had a chance to get to Tammy's computer. Who would that be? Well, Emma Daybell. So remember those emails that were sent from Charles to Tammy at her work? And police said that, they found it, but they don't think Tammy's seen it. Well, somebody had to move it. I don't think Chad could have access to the school like Emma. So user, that makes total sense to me now that I go back and think about these other things. Here's my girl. I'm sorry if I butcher your name, Juanita. I love you, girl. You know that. Anyway, she says, Tammy had to have been dead for many hours to be cold and stiff. And I agree. See, many people say, or several experts have said, we can't exactly pin down, when a human body, depending on it's relative. But the way that Chad Daybell and Garth were kind of making it seem like, oh my God, suddenly she fell out of bed and she was stiff. It makes no sense at all. Many people have been very interested in this part of the case, how Tammy was found and how stories just don't line up. Thank you so much for sharing. Our next subscriber is Suzanne Holm. If Emma had cried and told how much she loved and misses her mom, appeared to be considering her answers before answering, told under half of the lies, and did not elaborate on the obvious things she and Pryor had discussed, I think she would have won some of the jury over. But you didn't, Emma. Stupid, stupid move. But who can blame a mini Chad who is going to lead the 144,000? So, it seems to me that this comment is kind of reflecting to the fact that Emma had a chance to tell the truth, that she proved to the jury that she was more in support of what her dad was doing, which was leading the 144,000. To put it simply, people just wanted them. They were really rooting for them to do the right thing. Thank you, Susan. Natasha Freeman. I wonder if the prosecution is holding on to jail calls between Chad and Emma. It will be interesting to see. Thank you, Natasha, for commenting and sharing your thoughts. Guys, I want to say too, before I go any further, make sure that you like, subscribe, and comment. So absolutely, there is so much out there that I would love to hear myself, and I know all of our other family members here would as well. I mean, there's so many missing pieces to the puzzle, like I often mention. I mean, my gosh, can you imagine if you heard them talking in code? And so if you did hear something like that, how would that make you feel about Emma and Chad's relationship then? So it makes you wonder, they had to be careful. Prosecutors had to be very careful what they presented in court. All right, Huggy Bear. The way that the children talked about their mother's so-called poor health sounded like they were justifying the death because she was a wounded horse with a broken leg. This is a really great comment, and a lot of us have talked about this, is the fact that the kids spent more time making their mother look like she is on her deathbed, working on going to a nursing home. Instead of saying, my dad was cheating, we found out after the, fact, and this made us wonder, maybe this death might not have been so natural after all. Next is Miss Marple. I can just hear the Daybells now. What is wrong with all these weirdos? Why do they care about these people who died? They didn't know them. They have nothing better to do. And this is her response to people that say that. She says, well, we fell in love with the kids, hearing their plight. We are hungry for justice for anyone involved in hurting them or hindering the investigation. We also care about your mom. We are human beings with beating hearts and souls, feeling such anguish at this horrific situation. We will follow it through to the end when justice is served, and it will be. Lots of people need penalization, and hopefully all will pay that are guilty. That is intense. This is an intense, emotional response to people she feels did not do their mother correctly. This is a normal response to people who absolutely care about someone else's outcome. They care that they do get justice. Thank you, honey, for sharing. Next is Lady Luck. I always believe that Emma and Garth are more involved than we think. For one, Emma's reaction or lack thereof when JJ and Tylee were found in the backyard was very telling. Now, the wind direction searches make me think that she knew everything. I can say for sure that I wouldn't be comfortable with my children being taught by either Emma or Garth. So again, another concerning comment on whether or not Emma and Garth were being truthful. And again, another concern for the lack of shock when they found two people on his property. And I do believe that I would even have a concern if my kids were being taught by the likes of Emma or Garth Daybell. And why? Because we know this case, and we know there's a potential that they're lying, and if they can lie like that, then there's a chance that he might support these very drastic beliefs. And this will be the last one for right now. USA Kiwi says, Garth said that when he came in his parents' bedroom, Tammy's legs were still entangled in the bedding. How could she be cold, stiff, and gray that quickly? So another concern for the story of how Tammy was found and how long she had been passed away. There's so many red flags with this. It's crazy. And I think that there is a possibility that there is a lack of documentation this day, at least proper documentation on the day that Tammy passed away, making it difficult to prove who is lying and who is telling the truth. They can't compare much of anything. And this part, in my opinion, made it very difficult on the prosecutor. So great share, guys. I appreciate it. Y'all have some great comments, but like I said, there was more comments than expected, so it's going to take me a while to go through them. Don't forget about these missing girls. Share their faces on your social media today, especially those of you that might have pretty hefty channels. Love you guys, and I'll see you soon.